Welcome to Musclebox Radio. I'm your host Stephen Box and my co-host is Michael Harrison. This show is going to be all about nutrition, training, bodybuilding with loads of banter. We're going to be giving you the evidence, the science and breaking that down with the help of some amazing guests and industry leaders to give you that application. So make sure you subscribe and I hope you enjoy the show.
We're recording.
Are we?
I think so.
Yeah, I'll obviously edit this bit out.
We're back.
We are back. Welcome to episode 2, guys. Mike, what have we got on today's show?
Oh, God. What haven't we got? Well, quite a lot of things, but...
Well, mate, we don't want to go over everything because obviously we don't want to just stop the podcast at episode 2.
Yeah, what we have got is we're going to start off our little priority pyramid with the most important thing about nutrition in Team Box's opinion and real facts. And we're going to talk about weekly energy balance, thermodynamics, a little bit about metabolism.
And then we're going to do a little prep update as well, aren't we?
Oh, a little prep update, you know, keep it standard.
And then we have got a listener question.
Yeah.
And it's a great question.
It is a great question.
Our first listener question.
Yeah, our only listener's question.
And it's legit. We didn't even make this one up.
I know. I can't believe it.
I know.
Get in. Thanks, Mum.
Yeah.
That's awesome for sending that in.
Yeah, and it's not going to be Mike when you're getting a haircut, son.
Although that question does keep coming up quite a lot.
Yeah, it's a common thread. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. People, I think, I also just want to say at this point, we have been completely overwhelmed, haven't we, by the amount of support that we've had, by the ratings and reviews that our podcast has had. And obviously, we only launched the podcast last week, but we went straight shot at number 2. Number 2 is one of the top rated podcasts. So obviously, the pressure's on now to maintain that. So everyone who's, left us a review, wrote something nice, whether it's just something that they found entertaining or, they might be looking forward to some of the guests that we've got lined up, some of the our thoughts and opinions, some of our banter or yours, lack of mine. But yeah, we've just been truly humbled by everyone's support. And we've got a little bit of a thank you as well. Later on, which we will announce, we've got a little competition going for everyone who has left a review and a rating so far, who subscribed to the podcast. So yeah, we'll announce that after the break.
So sort of humbled a little bit that people actually want to listen. There's only the NHS and the whole UK above us. So let's take it down. With the NHS.
Let's be careful, mate. We might need them one day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point.
But anyway. So today's podcast, obviously all about priorities. And I'll have to think of a catchy title for this one. Because I think it's something that's, really, really common in the fitness industry. Everyone's got their opinion on what people need to be doing. Whether it's kind of like you must eat every 2 to 3 hours. You then got some people saying, okay, you can eat fat but no carbohydrates. You got other people saying just eat this, after this time. You've heard it. There's so many things out there, but ultimately what they're failing to do is kind of like, see the wood from the trees, isn't it? They focus a lot on the minor things, even to the degree of sometimes supplements, that can get an overemphasis compared to energy balance, for example, as you alluded to earlier, is one of the biggest factors in success of any journey of either getting shredded or putting on muscle. We'll delve into both of those, and obviously we're going to get some really good researchers on over the next kind of coming weeks, months, years, hopefully, to talk more about this kind of stuff, because it is so important, isn't it?
Like you said, I think people focus on the things that's going to make 1% of the difference instead of like the 99%, and sort of thoughts are backwards. So they'll focus on supplements that make up 1% of their results, and that disregard
like CLA.
Nutrition and training. Yeah, I was the same. Yeah. I was on all the stacks, the shred stack, the fat burning stack, whatever it was, whatever
the lean gain stack. There's a stack.
Was on it. Yeah. I was on it, but I didn't have a clue about what I was eating, what I was training, so I never made any progress.
Yeah.
But it's a massively common thing where you speak to somebody and they go, "Yeah, I'm going to get shredded," because I've got a holiday in 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And that's the first thing they do: go out, buy fucking everything, every supplement under the sun, and get no gains.
Yeah, and it's not to say that supplements don't have a place; they do, but obviously it's just understanding when they come in.
Yeah.
And we'll go over that as well. And there's obviously different coaches will have a different spin on kind of what they prioritize, but generally most of the, I would say, evidence-based community are kind of singing on the same song sheet, which is really, really good. And then obviously it's just the finer details people might have slightly differing of opinions on, but that's okay because obviously, for a start, different coaches work with different types of clients. They've got different amounts of experiences, so that's great that there is that little bit of, because ultimately we don't know everything about nutrition and training, both from the research point and also ourselves. We're still young in our careers, and obviously we've got that thirst for knowledge, which was one of the reasons why we wanted to do this podcast, so we could interview great guests, learn from them, and hopefully, share their knowledge with you guys in a way that we can kind of apply that in a really good setting, so you can take that away, apply it to the gym, apply it to the kitchen, and within your lifestyle to sort of see some better results, so you're not just stagnating, plateauing, or just following some, meal plan which is sick to the teeth of,
Definitely. For me, doing this podcast is like what I would have liked to have listened to when I was first developing and learning.
Yeah.
I wish I could have found something like this, which is, pretty informal, a bit of a relaxed chat, but getting some information across, getting the knowledge from some of the leading guys in the industry, instead of, spending years getting all my information from
the biggest guy in the gym.
Yeah, the biggest guy in the gym or a magazine or whatever it is. But yeah, that's why I want to do the podcast, because I think the fitness industry is so rife with myths and misconceptions. And like you said before, high fat, low carb, low fat, high carb, paleo,
fasted cardio,
fasting, fasted cardio, HIIT versus steady state. Like, what supplements should I take? Carb backloading, carb cycling. Are you shocking your body up? There's all sorts of like myths and things that you just hear time and time and time again.
Yeah.
And it's just going to be nice to sort of get experts' opinions on these and, clear a lot of the confusion up in hopefully an entertaining way.
Yeah, because you also get a lot of the people I hear as well being like, science, one paper will say this, one paper will say that. And I'm thinking in my head, like, okay, yes, that might be true. You could have papers with conflicting, for example, messages or conclusions. However, the context, the type of setup that they had, for example, might be completely different, even to the test subjects.
Yeah.
What might work in an elderly population might not be the same for a, student population, or like sort of older adolescents, young adults who are weight training. But it's about knowing, and hopefully when we get the guys on, these researchers, they can tell you about the context. So it just makes science a lot more understandable. So hopefully that if you do ever go away and read papers, or you want to delve in a little bit more into the information that maybe we discuss, you feel a bit more comfortable knowing, okay, so this was the hypotheses, this was the methods, this is how they carry out the design, this is kind of what they found out, this is the literature around that topic, and then ultimately looking at the results and the conclusion, and then what we can then give our opinions with them as well about how we actually apply that to a setting of, weight training or nutrition, like I said. So let's get into the basics then.
Yeah, sure. So
what's our most
weekly energy balance?
Yeah.
What is it?
So for me, even before we get into, we've got on our, Team Box pyramid, we've got 4 main stages, haven't we? And when I wrote the ebook, and when we kind of sat down and we went through those sort of stages, one of the key parts before that, is I put as a little bit of a disclaimer that you kind of have to be consistent and you have to have a goal. You kind of need to know where you're heading for a start. You can't just You know, because then without that, you don't know whether you're putting yourself in a calorie deficit or a surplus, or what sort of macronutrient setup you might need, for example. So you've got to have a good understanding of where you want to get to. You then need to be consistent and compliant and give yourself plenty of time for these next 4 stages to, you know, actually work. So obviously the biggest, like you said, is energy intake and energy expenditure, which we would deem is energy balance, right?
Yeah.
So
right.
imagine that as a kind of a seesaw effect. So we've got calories in, calories out. That is the most important thing when it comes to weight loss or weight gain or maintenance. So maintenance is where we would deem someone to be weight stable, where weight on the scales isn't moving. So if we have a little look at, for example, energy expenditure first, and then we can have a little look at energy intake.
Sure.
So the biggest impact of, or the biggest part, should I say, of energy expenditure is going to be basal metabolic rate. So that is going to be the amount of calories that you burn as an individual doing absolutely sweet fuck all. Just resting, whether it's asleep, whether it's sat down working, just for your, you know, human bodily functions to keep you alive.
Yeah, the energy required to run your organs, your intercostal muscles from when you're breathing.
Yeah.
If you were laid flat
maintaining
on your back,
posture, all that kind of stuff.
If you were laid flat on your back, it would be the amount of calories consumed, expended, to keep you alive.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah, that's it. And then we've also got, after that, we've got something called NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. This is kind of all the movements that you do, from scratching your ass to picking your nose to having sex with your girlfriend to walking down the street to, you know, doing a laborious job to typing at a keyboard, all the sort of movements and activities that you do, kind of, you know, even fidgeting in bed, whatever it is, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That is the next portion of energy expenditure, which I think a lot of people forget about, don't they? They don't, because they don't see it as planned, so it doesn't really kind of count to them.
It's often overlooked, and people will, you know, pay more. You know, obviously you should be training, but people think that you're going to burn more calories, you know, well, expend more calories during your training sessions, when in reality, you know, you're training, what, an hour a day?
Yeah.
You've got 23 other hours in that day. So,
and also, you're not training every day as well, are you?
And you're not training every day. I mean, because potentially somebody could train really, really hard in that 1 hour, great, but then go home, put their feet up, and literally not move all day.
Yeah.
So keeping an eye on NEAT. And making sure that you are, you know, at least making some conscious decision to move around is always going to be beneficial.
Unless, well, we'll get into the caveats later on. So that's just the kind of NEAT and you know, the spontaneous sort of movements. As you see, I fidget quite a lot. Talk with my hands, talk out my arse a lot. So yeah, all those sort of energy required to do those is NEAT. Then we've got EAT, which is exercise activity thermogenesis. And in the literature, you might see these kind of broken up in different acronyms, but we'll just go with this for now. So we've got basal metabolic rate, NEAT, NEAT, and then EAT, which is the exercise activity thermogenesis. So this is all of the calories utilized whilst doing
conscious exercise.
Yeah, conscious, I was going to say with intent. Yeah, so basically training that you've planned out to do, whether it's a 5K run, whether, Mike, it's your Zumba class that you like to attend on a Friday night. Give me that shuffle. The salsa dancing that you like to do on a Sunday, or it's the...
Old snake hips. That's what they call me down the salsa club.
Yeah, mate, any excuse to get your snake shoes on.
That's why I'm growing my hair, because I'm going to look slick as in my satin shirt down the salsa club.
Yeah, mate, nice. You're going to change your name from Mike to something a little bit more...
Miguel.
Strong. Miguel.
It is strong.
Yeah. So I'll get rid of the podcast, so it won't be with Mike Harrison, it'll be with Miguel.
Miguel, yeah. And we're going to feature salsa pretty much every week.
Yeah. Anyway, so we got EAT, so the exercise activity thermogenesis, and then finally, which is roughly 10%, rule of thumb, 10%, the thermic effect of feeding, okay, or the thermic effect of food, TEF, which is the amount of calories that is utilized in the absorption and digestion of actually eating. So if you ate 3,000 calories that day, 300 of those calories would be utilised, because that's 10%. Sharp maths, as you can tell. Yep. So you would actually only really be getting 2,700 from that 3,000 that you put in your face.
Yep. And that's 10% regardless of how many meals that you eat, right?
Yeah, whoa, mate. You're going to be... Now you've just dropped that in. We don't have any more podcasts to do now.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah. You got to save the content. You got to keep people interested, you know?
Keep them dangling. The juicy dangler.
The dangler. Yeah.
Oh, you've got to keep them dangling.
So there are 4 main components.
And what is the other side?
Then we have got calories in.
My favourite.
Yep.
Yep.
So anyway, for just as a quick one, calories. I've heard this in the past. Yeah, but calories don't count, or that they don't believe in calories. Well, yeah, mate, I've heard it. Yeah, they don't believe in calories. So essentially, a calorie is a measurement. It's like saying a centimetre doesn't exist. It's like saying they don't believe in a kilometre. So just it is a measurement, just to let you know, and it's a measurement of energy or heat. So essentially, calories in, let's just work through them systematically. The first one, and probably the most important, is protein. So every gram of protein, and that's actual grams of protein found within the food. I'm not talking about how much grams of chicken you eat. Yeah. The amount of protein that is found within that chicken breast, for example, equates to 4 calories. So 1 gram of protein is about 4 calories. You've then got carbohydrates, which again, 1 gram of carbohydrates. So of your favourite Cocoa Pops, Mike, not Cocoa Pops weight, the carbohydrates found in the Cocoa Pops, that 1 gram is 4 calories. And then you've got fat. 1 gram of fat is 9 calories. And then alcohol, 1 gram of alcohol is 7 calories. So all of those combined together is your energy intake. Mm-hmm. Simples?
Simple. Absolutely simple.
So we've got
easy as that.
4 components of energy intake, 4 components of energy expenditure. So that's kind of energy balance. So for us, it's about, if you want to lose weight, you need to be eating less than you're expending. And if you want to gain some weight, you need to be eating more than you're expending.
And it is literally that simple.
Yeah. And if you just want to stay the same, you need to get those 2 matched.
Yep.
Yeah. And obviously this needs to happen over a long period of time. So just because you're in a deficit for a day doesn't mean you're going to get shredded.
Really?
Yeah. Just because you're in a surplus for a day doesn't mean you're going to gain 3 pounds of lean mass.
What about those guys who do really well on low carb for a day?
I don't even know, mate.
Yeah. Try getting 0 carb for 1 month.
And then tell me how fun it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like when I went to South Africa and I went up to this market stall and it said Banting friendly brownies. I was like, these sound friendly. So I'll go over to that and I was like, what's Banting? And he was like, it's where you live a low carbohydrate lifestyle. My response was, well, that sounds shit.
Yep.
That does not sound friendly whatsoever.
Well, you can pretty much guarantee that them brownies are going to taste like ass.
Yeah, or actually they're just laden with fat.
Yeah.
And what they could have done was just enjoyed a regular brownie, spent half the time baking it to be Banting friendly, so enjoyed the original brownie for a lot less calories.
Yeah.
And probably see better results. And then you can't be that guy who has to impose their dominance, being like, oh, sorry, I can't eat that because I'm Banting.
Yeah, exactly. I've been drawn into arguments like this online before with paleo Snickers bars and things like that. Healthy paleo Snickers bars. And when you break it down, they're literally double the amount of calories than an actual Snickers bar. So you would be better off eating a Snickers bar, and people just couldn't get their head around it. No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. Well, yes, you would.
Yeah.
You would.
That's exactly it. And we'll bring that down into a little bit of context later. We're like, me and you, we're not saying that, you should be filling your energy intake with Snickers. There obviously becomes a caveat to that in all that sort of jargon, but we can sort of get into the nitty-gritty of that. So level 1, energy balance. It's that simple. Now, if anyone ever says to you, okay, you need to do this, that will help you get lean, all they are doing is changing energy balance. No matter which way, shape and form, that is what they're doing. So if they say to you, don't eat carbs after 6, what they're basically, or let's say someone says to you, oh yeah, I've lost 3 pounds in the last few weeks because what I did was I stopped eating carbs after 6. So rather than thinking, oh, I'm going to try that, you just need to look at it and go, well, clearly what they've done is that they've just taken out a portion of their day where they're not eating carbohydrates and therefore calories. So therefore they have put themselves in an energy deficit compared to what they were doing before.
Yep.
Same as if someone goes to you, yeah, I've been doing intermittent fasting and I'm really insulin sensitive now, or my fat oxidation's going through the roof now, or whatever it is, whatever sort of crazy guruism that they've come up with to back their belief. What you're doing is missing a meal. So they're missing out a portion of calories compared to what they were doing before. So if they were eating roughly 3 meals of 1,000 calories and now they take a meal out, even if they overcompensate slightly in one of their meals, and let's say it's 1,200, they're only eating 2,200 calories. Therefore, they are in an energy deficit compared to what they were doing before. That is why they're getting leaner and losing weight.
Yeah.
But it's quite easy to also, let's say, go on a diet.
And overeat.
And overeat, like the Atkins diet. So
absolutely.
The Atkins diet is, right, remove carbohydrates. Or we've all heard the no carbs before marbs. Most... one of my friends, he won't mind me mentioning his name, Blake, he reduced carbs, back a couple of years ago when he was a bro, took out carbs pre-Ibiza, because he was like, this will help me get lean.
It doesn't rhyme, though.
No, mate. Does that mean it doesn't work?
Maybe. Remove beefer before Ibiza? I don't know.
Remove beef before Ibiza? Yeah.
Could work.
Anyway, that would still do it. So if he was eating beef every meal, then yeah, you're putting yourself in a calorie deficit. But obviously, with all these diets like the Atkins diet, where they are saying, right, you need to remove, for example, carbohydrates and instead eat high-fat foods, to a point, for some people that may work initially. But obviously, after time, they'll find, because they'll obviously start taking out carbohydrates, maybe alcohol, which might have been over the week 3,500 calories, and now on a deficit about 500 a day. But over time, what they'll start to do is creep more and more fat in, because someone will say, oh, have you tried nuts? Or have you tried avocado? Or have you tried coconut oil in your coffee? Or have you tried this? Have you tried that? Before you know it, what they'll end up doing is compensating with more and more fat, because they'll still want to eat to satiety. And then end up potentially even overeating and gaining weight, although they're technically on a diet.
Sure. Like any dietary protocol, regardless of what it is, whether it's the latest thing that you've heard about from the biggest guy in the gym, or whether it's even right down to, dieting things like Weight Watchers or whatever that is, juice diets, any dietary protocol that is causing weight loss for any specific individual is because of the calorie restriction. No matter what you think it's doing to your hormones, what you think it's doing to growth hormone, insulin, all these things, regardless of that, forget about that. The thing that has to be, that has to occur is a calorie deficit. And if you're not in a calorie deficit and following one of these diet plans, then you are not going to lose weight, because it's not the fact that the diet plan or the method or the protocol is magic. It's the fact that it's an easier way to get you into a calorie deficit. So like you said, if you're fasting and only eating 6 hours a day, it's probably a lot harder to overeat within those 6 hours than if you were eating for 16 hours. Taking out carbs, again, you're limiting the carbs, so you're limiting the calories. And it is just exactly how you said. I think people attribute their results to a protocol and get fixed to the idea of low carb or carb backloading.
Yeah, because if you said to someone, oh, it's just a case of more calories in...
People get attached to it, and they think their results are... they think their results are coming because they're doing this fasting or they're doing this carb backloading, whereas they would have got the exact same results if they were taking on the same amount of calories,
or even better results
in a normal way. Yeah.
Because often the time with a lot of these diets or guru diets is that they are far too restrictive than they need to be. You know, like one of my clients, again, Blake, the one who used to be Bro before his Ibiza, let's keep using him as an example. You know, he's now in week 17 of his cut that I'm doing with him. The guy's shredded. If anyone followed me on Snapchat today, they'll just see that he's looking pretty vascular.
Cracking tan.
He's got a great tan. But for him, he has barely noticed the deficit that he's been in. He's dieting for 17 weeks. His training performance is still up there. He's still got another 9 weeks before he goes to Ibiza, ironically. This time he's turning up peeled. So yeah, that's the difference. What are you doing with your camera, Mike? You've got like a real cheesy grin on your face.
I've always got a cheesy grin on my face.
Mate, it looked like a bit creepy. He's creeping me out.
Really? Oh, shit.
Yeah. So
I don't want to look creepy.
Yeah, a lot of the time with these diets, they're often far too restrictive, which is often a problem for adherence, training performance, and what we can do in another podcast is go over some of the problems with, dieting and being in an energy deficit. So that's that, I think, pretty much nailed. And then, so level 2 for us is our daily nutritional intake. And this covers how much protein, how much carbohydrates, how much fat, how much fiber, and also other nutrients that are being, taken in on a regular, daily, weekly, monthly basis.
Sure.
So again, we can go into maybe like the mechanics of kind of proteins, fats, carbohydrates. It's outlined in the book pretty well on our website. So if you just go on team-box.co.uk, you can just download that. And that will give you a really nice overview of kind of the basic macronutrient and their requirements. So yeah, once you've kind of got those in place, we can quickly whiz over those, but obviously we've kind of spent most of our time talking about energy balance, which is great anyway. But yeah, you've got obviously protein is there to maintain muscle mass or potentially grow new muscle mass. Carbohydrates are there to fuel performance. Fats are there for satiety and hormone function, delivery of nutrients. So you kind of need and obviously the essential fats that are there just to provide good nourishment for your body, along with the micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, fiber, water, sleep. That kind of all gets bracketed in that part. Then for us at level 3 is what we classify mindful eating. And that's just kind of being aware of what you're doing in terms of consumption. So we normally say 80% of your diet should be coming from single ingredient foods. Foods you just look at, you know what they are. Whether it's cod, whether it's green beans, whether it's sweet potato, whether it's chicken, lamb chops, whatever. Just stuff you can look at, you think, right, that's what it is. It doesn't need a label. Which will generally be higher in nourishment compared to other potentially more processed foods or foods with more ingredients in, basically. So, and that's it. But there's no good or bad foods. It's just whole foods or not whole foods. So 80% of calories should be coming from that. And then you've also got another 10%, which we say is kind of mixed but still nourishing foods. Things like bread, which contains a good amount of fiber from the grains, pasta, and again, they're really important for those guys who've got a high energy expenditure, who need a lot of calories to come in from carbohydrates, say. So yeah, introducing pastas, breads, cheeses, peanut butters, whatever it is, that kind of gets bracketed in that. And then finally 10%, which we say is kind of eat whatever the hell you want. So if it is that Snickers bar, if it is that, sexy brownie that you want to eat, if it's, a few slices of pizza, that's when you can have that, or have your cake and eat it, so to speak. But that's kind of what our kind of guidelines are. Our off-season guidelines are slightly different, but not by much. So that's generally a rule of thumb for good nourishment in mindful eating. But then also mindful eating for me anyway, also is that important part of social events, So if I'm going out to a restaurant, I'm not going to get too OCD about exactly weighing out everything to the gram. I might weigh out potentially my steak if I know I've got that in maybe the handful of chips, or I might just eyeball some stuff. But I know mindfully when I'm able to do that, when I need to be a little bit more on point, when I can be a little bit more relaxed, so it doesn't completely take over my life and I become either a hermit or a kind of a nutrition Nazi or something,
Yeah, mindful eating's an important one, because where a lot of people break down in trying to get lean, or whatever goal that you've got, is the fact that they can't stick to what they're doing.
Yeah.
And mindful eating and just having that knowledge of, yeah, you are getting enough single ingredients in your diet to cover, your micronutrients and to optimize your health. So you're feeling good, you're sleeping well, your digestion's good, you're training well. But then just having that option there and that little bit of flexibility just completely takes the edge off, and you can diet without feeling like you're on a diet. So myself, I'm contest prepping, obviously, and I'm having burger and chips and popcorn and things in moderation, and if they're not removed from the diet, you don't miss them, because I'm always having them, so I'm less likely to say, fuck it, I'm gonna go and order a Domino's. Or
that's it, and there's been studies which show that when they've essentially said no, you can't eat these, for example, amount of chocolate, people automatically, when they're given that chocolate back, overeat on that. So disallowing foods is one of the worst things you can ever do, I think, and that's why we try and get people away from using words like clean eating, because clean eating sort of shows that if there's something clean, then there's kind of something dirty. So it's kind of already in this orthorexic behavior that some foods are better than others, but
good,
they're not.
bad foods.
There's no superfoods.
There's no.
It's just, some foods have got higher nutritional value than others, but that doesn't mean that they're bad or they're not good, or that you shouldn't eat them. And we're going to get on a great guest next week, Varushka. She is a IFBB Arnold's competitor in body fitness, and she's one of my clients, so we're going to get her on because she's got a really incredible story to share, coming from being completely, utterly bro and in the dark ages of, eating white fish every single meal with just green beans, to a flexible dieting approach, which was very new in her area, within her sort of peer group, in sort of social environment, especially on social media, and the amount of abuse that she got for, adopting a flexible dieting approach. Being told that, why are you eating pancakes? You're competing, you need to pull this together, so you need to cut that shit out. Why are you having dairy? That's going to, bloat you out. You're going to be, holding water or causing inflammation, or you shouldn't be having, like Diet
Sweetness.
Coke. Yeah, exactly, yeah. Do you know what I mean? Because that's going to blunt your insulin sensitivity or some bollocks. But she got a lot of abuse about that, and it'll be really exciting to get her on to have a little bit of a rant. I'm sure she can get a few things off her chest anyway, which would be really good. And she is a fearsome competitor, and certainly one to look out for in the future. We've got some really big ambitions for her to get her to the Olympia stage over the next kind of 3 years. And her spirit for bodybuilding is absolutely inspirational for guys, for girls.
She is shredded.
Yeah, she's an unbelievable athlete. So it'd be awesome to interview her a little bit more, and she can sort of tell you about this. But for me as well, mindful eating gives me that flexibility, so I can go to the cinema. If I want to borrow some macros off tomorrow or some calories off tomorrow's allowance, I'll do that. And I don't sweat about it. Last night I had yesterday I trained legs, had a big deadlift session, and in the evening I was kind of like just feeling really, really flat, just really tired, and I thought, do you know what, I'm going to steal 400 calories, so I just had a big bowl of cereals before I went to bed with a Snickers protein bar, and I just thought, do you know what, I need this for my recovery, because I felt like I did. So today I've adjusted my, macronutrients to cater for that, and that's fine, I'm feeling good, I had a good session earlier, so and that's where that flexibility needs to come, not to be like, well, coach said I had to have 100 grams of chicken breast and 100 grams of green beans, and I've ate that, and now I feel like death, and I'm going to go whinge about it on social media. Because ultimately, if it's not going to be flexible, you're not going to adhere to it. And as we know, if you can't adhere to something, there's no point doing it. Or you'll end up leading to binges or cheat meals or falling off the rails or whatever it might be, which isn't great habits to get into.
No.
So then finally, Mike, we have got nutrient timing, haven't we?
We have, yeah. And again, like supplements and things like that, this is often paid attention to quite a lot. In terms of when to time your carbs and when not to eat certain things. But it is the least important. There is certain application for this. Again, like supplements. So there are certain times, like, for example, if you are relatively at the end of your diet, and you're perhaps lacking in energy. So you might be better off timing your carbohydrates around your workout to optimize performance and recovery and things like that. But if you've got a decent amount of carbohydrates and calories in your diet, there's nothing wrong with spacing them however you want and however you can stick to. If you want to go out in the evening and have a bigger meal, there's nothing wrong with saving up your calories for the evening for a bigger meal. You don't have to eat 40 grams of protein, 40 grams of protein, 40 grams of protein, 37 grams of carbs, 37 grams of carbs, 12 grams of fat. Do you know what I mean? You don't need to be that specific.
Yeah.
So, there is application for it, but it's probably the least important. The only thing I would say is particularly important about nutrient timing is that for anybody looking to optimize, lean body tissue, that getting a decent serving of around 20, 25 grams and over of protein every sort of 3 to 4 hours would be the most sort of sensible way to go about spacing your protein, I'd say.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Like, if you think, for me, nutrient timing comes down to the context again. So if you're an endurance athlete or you're a high performing athlete which is training multiple times a day, yes, nutrition timing might be important so you can recover from those bouts before your next session. That could be someone in, for example, also like myself now, I can't get away with the stuff I could get away with in my off season just through how I feel when I'm training. So I, for example, now use intra-workout carbohydrates, but I didn't in my off season because I didn't feel like it's needed. Like you said with protein timing, eating, I would normally say 3 to 5 hours, anywhere from 20 to 30 grams of protein, which is essentially the reason why we're looking for that is to spike muscle protein synthesis. If you can do that every 3 to 5 hours, that's going to cover your bases pretty well. But in saying that as well, if like some mornings I might skip breakfast, but I know that one serving I've missed, I'm not going to go home and cry about it because
your biceps aren't just going to drop off because you've missed a serving of protein. It's not that imperative. The total amount during the day is what's most important, and then it might be sensible to split it up evenly, or at regular intervals, and that's it. And certainly around training as well, protein. So whether that's an hour to 2 hours before, or an hour to 2 hours after, something like that. Is pretty much a rough rule of thumb. So you don't need to necessarily get into the shower in the gym with your penis in one hand and a protein shake in the other hand. That's just not that necessary.
Yeah, mate, you want to be careful you shake the right thing, mate.
Well, which is the right thing to be shaking?
Is this like a personal shower or communal?
Communal.
Well, you want to be careful what you're shaking in that respect.
It's it's far from hygienic.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Like, we're not saying don't have a post-workout protein shake. There could be benefit from it. If the research wasn't there saying it's not necessarily needed, might I do it anyway if I was really trying to optimize performance? If I was competing at Olympia, I'd be like, do you know what? Yeah, why not do it? Do you know what I mean? But ultimately, I'm not just going to go, shit, I didn't have my pre-workout today. I may as well just go home.
Yeah, like people do. Fuck! Yeah. My BCAAs are at home. I'm going to skip training. That is just so counterproductive. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll take a break there. Don't you think, Mike? We've been chatting on for 38 minutes.
Oh, God, rambling.
We'll take a quick break and then we'll be back. We've got to talk about, what have we got? Our competition coming up.
And listener question.
And then a little prep update.
But update. Yeah, we'll keep it short
and sweet.
Yeah, concise. Come on, Boxy, get it in.
Yeah, all right. Right, break time.
Bye.
Welcome back after the break. So, a huge thank you to our sponsors, MuscleFood. Again, for just being absolutely fantastic. We spoke a lot about them last week, didn't we? Kind of went over our favourite foods. I think I've got a Team Box hamper arriving on Thursday, which I'm tomorrow. Pretty excited.
I had my delivery yesterday.
Strong.
It's like my favourite time of the week, getting that in.
I've gone for 6 pizzas this time.
Oh, just a 6, yeah.
That's it, mate. I love the pizzas. So, anyway, on lines with that, we have got a competition which is a £75 MuscleFood voucher. Ooh.
And that will get you a lot on MuscleFood. It's pretty well priced.
That's like a month's worth of food.
I'm hoping to win this competition.
Yeah, mate, you can't win.
I don't win.
So, how you win, or how to enter the competition, is by doing the following things. So listen up carefully. The first thing you obviously need to do is be listening to this podcast. So you need to subscribe to the show. You then, once you've subscribed to the show, so you get our content weekly, you then need to leave a rating. Ideally 5 stars would be great. We'd appreciate that, wouldn't we, Mike? A 5-star?
Yeah, we're not going to be biased towards anybody who rates us any lower, but,
we will be.
We will be. And also, on the first point that you mentioned, you've got to be listening to the podcast. I imagine that's already happening, Steve. If they're,
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
Carry on.
And then, so subscribe, leave a 5-star rating, and then a review. So just say something great about the podcast, whatever you want, whatever you found funny, entertaining, insightful, interesting, something you're looking forward to, whatever. Do that. So those 3 things, and then the entries close on the 17th of June, which is a Friday, at midnight. So entries will close then. The winners will be announced on the Teambox UK Facebook page. So make sure you are following us on that. I'm sure you probably already are if you listen to the podcast anyway. But follow us on there, so then we will announce the winner on that page. Please, always follow the MuscleFood stuff. They've always got good deals on and stuff anyway, over on their Facebook stuff. But the 3 requirements to enter the show are the subscribe, rating, review. Easy. And you could be in the chance to win £75 voucher of MuscleFood, on whatever you kind of want, really. So that's the deal. That's the competition. So again, huge thanks to MuscleFood for putting that on for us. We're really, really grateful for their support on this show. And yeah, I emailed them this week and I said, look, I'm just really passionate about, I'm still over the moon that they decided to collaborate with us, really. And I'm completely humbled, because it's not like we have to, we're not those people who are like selling out and saying, oh, this is great. Because we genuinely use their products. We have done. I've used them for the last 3-4 years now. And again, it fits within our priorities so well that, single ingredient foods. And that's exactly what they do. But then they also do those great foods which can fit into your, the other 20% as well. Like your pizzas, like your, like the pies, like all the other food you like to eat off there. So, yeah. So yeah, it's absolutely on point with us in our beliefs as a company and coaches, really, which is awesome. So that's that prep update, Mike. How's that going for you?
Oh, fucking sweet, mate.
So we're now 13 and a half
weeks out. Yeah, 13 and a half weeks out. I had quite a dramatic bit of fat loss last week. I lost 1.5 kilos, and we're 3 days into this week. And my average is down 0.6 of a kilo already, so I expect that to keep dropping. And yeah, it's going pretty well. Like in comparison to last year at 14 weeks out, I'm weighing the same, which is nice. So I know that I've got enough time left now to hit weight if need be. But at the same time, I'm also looking a little bit better than what I was last year. I can see I've got more lean tissue. I'm a little bit leaner. So I think I'll perhaps come in a little bit heavier on stage, which is obviously going to be nice, and that's what I've worked in my off-season for. So I don't perhaps have as much to lose as what I thought I did maybe a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, keep plugging away. My calories are still pretty decent. I'm still enjoying some nice foods. I'm still having my go-go pops, as you like to tell people. I'm still having chips and burgers and, all the sorts of things I'm still able to eat out.
There's nothing magic about Cocoa Pops apart from they taste great. Just a disclaimer on that, okay? Don't. I've seen some people go like, oh yeah, if it fits your macros, they talk about Pop-Tarts. I've just had one and it was shit. Yeah. Or what's the point in this? Well, if you don't like it, don't eat it.
Don't eat it. Yeah. Fucking hell.
I'm not personally a fan of Pop-Tarts, so I don't eat them. But I do like Nando's and I do like sushi. So if I want to go for sushi, I don't be like, oh, it's not on my meal plan, I can't eat it.
Yeah, we're not. Everything you eat doesn't have to be in your diet for some magical, mythical purpose. You know, like
apart from fish though, mate, because that thins the skin.
it thins the skin.
Yeah.
And then we've got like coriander with its fucking growth or whatever the fuck somebody came up
Boost your
with.
test, mate. That
Boost your test, yeah.
cinnamon blunt. Cinnamon.
Go on.
Cinnamon will blunt your insulin. Fact. You know?
Or
so
you could just...
So you have to have that on every single meal. Roast dinners, your Nando's. Just get cinnamon on it, mate.
Or just eat cinnamon if you like it. Or eat coriander if you're having a curry.
Mate, don't be stupid.
Yeah. So yeah, it's going pretty decent. Enjoying my foods, you know. I'm getting used to the cardio, even though I fucking loathe it because I am inherently lazy.
Yeah.
I am getting used to it. It's getting a bit easier. It was hard lugging around so much weight before, but it is getting easier, and I'm starting to enjoy some of the sessions. So and it's always nice when you're coming down as well. When you're going the other way and you're getting fatter, and you're in your off season, and you know your motivation goes a little bit. But now I'm starting to see changes. I'm getting leaner. So I'm really up for it, and nice. I can't wait. What about yourself?
Yeah, so just as a quick one for those listeners who don't know, myself, Mike, and the other Team Box coaches, so that is Chris Emmett, Daniel Meek, and Laura Baker. So far, we have all agreed to do the same show on the same day. So we're all actually competing against each other. And that is going to be on... is it like the 4th of September?
4th of September, yeah.
4th of September.
Wales, Cardiff.
Yeah, we're doing the UK BFF show. The guys will be competing in the physique class, and then Dan and Laura will be competing in the bikini class.
Yeah.
I think Laura's got her bikini. I think Dan's still got to choose his. He's having some problems with his heels or something at the moment, but
yeah.
Typical Dan's a bit fussy on his heels.
Yeah.
So my prep's going pretty well now. Interestingly, so I have a coach, Jeff Alberts from 3D Muscle Journey. I worked with him last year for the first year. The year prior to that, I worked with Lane Norton, which was really, really good experience. And this year, I decided to work with 3D Muscle Journey. And yeah, Jeff has been my coach kind of ever since the start of my prep last year. I had a Skype call with him just as a kind of bit of a mentoring thing to go over some training protocols, and I really liked his approach. And we're actually going to get him onto the show as well at some point. He's agreed to come on, which is phenomenal.
If you don't know who he is, he's an absolute legend. He's been bodybuilding for 30 years. Yeah,
he's done over 30 shows. A natural bodybuilding champion, and he's an absolute fantastic coach. And I love my updates from him. I learn a lot about my own prep, coaching, and all that kind of thing as well. So essentially now I worked with him 14 weeks out from show, or 16 or 14 weeks, something like that. And that was for last year when I did the fitness model class, and I did pretty well. This year I worked with him throughout my entire off season, and we've already been prepping now for I think I'm in week 8 already, week 8 or 9, and I've still got another 13 and a half weeks to go. So this time we're taking a much longer prep. My weight hasn't really dropped at all. I think I've probably dropped a kilo in that amount of time, but I am visually looking a lot leaner. I'm starting to get some good vascularity on my quads, on my abs. My hip flexors, adductors have all sort of come through. Starting to get some good shape on my glutes now, and hopefully the feathers are starting to appear on my quads. So yeah, things are going really, really well. And again, for me, I think I'm going to be coming in a little bit heavier than I normally do, which will be great. Normally I'm on stage at about 70. Last year, I think I was on stage probably fueled up at 74. I think this year I might come in at 75, which would be nice. But yeah, for me, the scales aren't going dramatically in one way, but I'm visually getting a lot leaner. And I can start to already see myself, maybe being ready a lot earlier than expected. So it'll be interesting to see what Jeff does with that. Maybe obviously we can quiz him a little bit when he comes onto the show about his strategy for me. I don't mind sharing that personally. I know some competitors are a bit kind of like, oh, don't say that, because obviously they might be competing against me, but I don't really care.
Yeah. Don't give away your secrets, mate.
Yeah.
What you mean, consistent nutrition and training?
Yeah, my genetics, I can't give that away.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
The
last 27 years of being alive in training, whatever.
Yeah, nice, mate. Nice. So things are going well from both ends.
Yeah, we soon, mate. You're gonna have to pick out our trunks and start practicing posing.
Yeah. Well, trunks, shorts.
Shorts,
I ain't getting these legs out. No way.
mate.
Or,
They've really come on this year, though.
or this penis. I haven't got the penis for it.
Yeah.
I can't go on stage with this penis.
What? Yeah, and you also don't want to get a boner if you're in a in trunks.
There'll be no chance of getting a boner that far into prep. Are you joking? Fucking hell.
Yeah, it was a classic once. We've got a friend, and I won't mention his name, but we were sat around having dinner, and he was like, "Right, I'm thinking about getting into bodybuilding," and people were quizzing him like, "Oh, do you think you could do it?" And he was like, "Yeah, I think so." The guy hasn't really got too much training experience, so he might have been a little bit naive to it. But anyway, and then he said, "The only thing I worry about, is getting a boner on stage." And I was like, "Honestly, not gonna happen, mate. Don't worry about it. You're gonna be pretty okay on that front."
Yeah.
Not only are you going to be probably a nervous wreck on stage, but as we know, there is a severe lack of boner rates as a deficit goes on. But look, it's just part of the process, right?
Yeah, it's part of the process. And yeah, although another 10 oiled up, half naked guys is, appealing to some people, yeah, I can't see me getting an erection over that at any stage of the year. Regardless of if I've just dieted.
Or having 2,000, about 200 people stood in front of you.
Yeah, it's like that.
Watching your every move.
Like, oh yeah, I don't want to go to the clinic and get checked out in case I get a hard on when they're looking at my penis. What? Come on.
I've never heard that one, but
no, that's just me then.
Mate, you got to get some new friends, mate.
I know. But yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, prep's going well.
We'll be wearing shorts. Thank fuck.
Yeah. So finally, let's finish off with the listener question. So yes. I've got the question here.
Go for it.
So guys, if you want to leave a question, then you need to email info@team-box.co.uk. I will get that question. Leave your name as well, and obviously then I can read it out. If there's any bits you don't want read out because it might be personal or whatever, just let us know, and I'll obviously not mention that. So the question is from Jessica. It says, I would like to know how important your macros split when compared to total calorie allowance when cutting. So I assume she means, when she says cutting, so being in a calorie deficit, trying to lose weight or body fat. Does it really matter what percentage your macros are if you say you are currently cutting on a certain amount of, for example, calories? So I think the question is basically, if calories are set, does your macronutrient percentage really matter that much?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll start off with my thoughts on this. I would say yes. In terms of weight loss, no, because we're talking about a calorie deficit. However, you've got to look at the whole picture, and it can't just be about that. In terms of, we need to make sure that we're supporting training so that we're able to elicit enough response to increase our TDEE or to have enough energy to make sure that we're in a calorie deficit.
Yeah.
Likewise, you're going to need enough protein to support lean body tissue. So, weight loss can be seen as two things. So it's not exclusively fat loss. So for me, looking at maintaining a high level of protein in the diet is going to at least ensure that minimal muscle loss occurs. So keeping your protein high within those calorie restraints, having a basal level of fats to support, hormone synthesis, satiety, a little bit of flavour in your food, mental cognition. You're probably looking at around no lower than 0.5 grams of fat per kilo of body weight. And then the rest of it, carbohydrates, I would say, to make up the rest of the calorie allowance. And that's what's going to be fueling your training and helping you recover and pushing you through those grueling sessions as the diet goes on. So yeah, I don't think it's a case of, right, I'm going to stick myself on 1,500 calories and I can literally just have 1,500 calories of, I don't know, pizza a day. Yeah, you're probably going to lose some weight, but you're probably going to lose some muscle. You're going to probably feel pretty terrible. Your training is going to be poor. You might get ill. there's all sorts of things that encompass that. And obviously, if you do start to feel dreadful, you get ill, you get tired, you don't train, then there's tendency to just say fuck it, quit it, and not continue.
For me, you know, I don't work based on percentages. So that'll be the first thing in the question, that I don't work on percentages, I just work on grams. And when I give targets to someone, generally if they're dieting, in this, you know, I'll say try and get within 5 grams either side of that target. Yeah, we can go into on another podcast the difference of, there's been, you know, stuff on social media recently about inaccuracies of calorie, you know, tracking and all that kind of stuff. We can get into that on another show, but ultimately consistency is what's the most important thing here. So once you've got your rough targets of 5 grams either side, as we said, yeah, a certain amount of protein is going to maintain, support lean muscle mass. And once you've got those targets for fats and carbohydrates, I generally base that off someone's preference when they come to me as a client. If I feel like I can, you know, maybe bring down their fats a little bit, if I feel like they're just eating too much fat for the potentially the sake of it, where they are, or maybe too much protein, and they are sacrificing carbohydrates for that, I'll then explain why I'm going to increase their carbohydrates, maybe reduce their protein, reduce their fat amount, and maybe kind of meet in the middle. But ultimately as well, that then sets a precedent of, you know, ultimately throughout the prep I want to maintain that protein amount. I won't drop protein too much over the course of a diet. I'll generally just drop carbohydrates and fats over time, like you said, going down to minimum of that sort of 0.5 gram per kilo of body weight. So it might start on 1 gram at the start of the diet, and that might, you know, come down over the course. Because again, I'm going to want to keep carbohydrates as high as possible to fuel performance, energy expenditure. But saying that, you know, on those days, let's say a client said to me, you know, I've got a family meal, you know, we're having a roast dinner, you know, can I swap? Can I keep my calories the same for that day? Let's say they're on 1,500. Can I swap 100 grams of carbohydrates, which is 400 calories, and have that of fat? Yes, if you're going to do that, you know, once in a while, not a problem. But the caveat to that is to then expect your weight to change, and there'll be quite kind of, there'll be greater inaccuracies or greater fluctuations if you are spreading your fats and your carbohydrates over. So I think from a mental kind of point of getting onto the scales, you know, people like to see linear progress. I know obviously it doesn't happen, but huge fluctuations are quite difficult to see, you know, progress from a week by week basis, even in pictures sometimes, you know, just through water retention, you know, and yeah, how that fluctuates on your weight. I know some guys, even flexible dieters, will even set up their own rough meal plan that they enjoy, just so it keeps a regular, consistent amount of volume coming into their diet, just so that, you know, for their own, you know, sort of mental well-being, that they are seeing progress on the scales.
I did that.
Yeah, so it obviously can help to be a little bit planned, you know, when your calories are very, very low. But ultimately, if you're someone who likes to see a kind of more consistent approach on the scales, maybe you want to keep a little bit more consistent approach with your volume of food as well, in obviously keeping those slightly tighter ranges. But, you know, me personally, I actually think, you know, and how I work with myself, you know, I've prepped for a lot of shows now, I've got a fair amount of experience with this, so I don't mind doing it so much. Although Jeff does sometimes get on my case for this. As long as kind of for me, I'm kind of equating calories over the week, I'm kind of okay with that. I feel like I've made good progress. But obviously there's a difference between making good progress and then maybe making optimal progress. There's not really any research that I'm aware of that would specify a certain amount per day or within range. It's just coming from experience as to, like we said, those factors of, you know, that psychological benefit that might occur from, you know, weight changes or whatever, body composition changes in the mirror, reflection, because you do become very weight and, you know, mirror focused, should we say. So yeah, there could be benefit for that. Obviously, you know, overeating on your fats might have a detriment on your carbohydrate allowance, which will then might have a knock-on effect to your performance in the gym. Same with alcohol. Over consuming alcohol, you're going to have to take that off your fats and your carbohydrates. So it's all about the context, isn't it? In your off season, you can get away with this a lot more.
Yeah, definitely. It is all about context. Yeah, the main thing is the weekly energy balance, like we said. But you know, within that, you've got your. I mean, we'll go into it much further in a later podcast. You've got your daily nutritional intake.
Yeah, and they've done studies where they've compared low carbohydrate diets compared to low fat diets. And they've kept calories the same, and there's been, a similar result. So
the weight loss is the same, yeah.
So from a scientific evidence point of view, keeping the calories under control over the week is probably the go-to. You can fluctuate slightly, but for more probably optimal performance and also consistency on the diet, maybe giving yourself a tighter constraints might be more beneficial. Yeah. But ultimately, you can see in play how it goes. You might want to cycle that throughout the week. Like, for example, implement a refeed day where obviously macronutrients are going to be higher of carbohydrates, for example. Again, for satiety, to allow you to eat out, all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
Anyway, I think we should wrap it up there, Mike. We've been blabbering on a long time now. It's about an hour show. So, guys, remember, for the competition closes on Friday the 17th at midnight. Subscribe, review, and a rating, and you'll be entered into that competition. Everything will be announced the day after on the Saturday on the Team Box Facebook page. If you've got any questions, email it over to info@teambox.co.uk. If you go onto our website, www.teambox.co.uk.
Fucking hell. They'll never find it.
Oh, mate. I'll put it a link.
team-box.co.uk.
Yeah, you can download the ebook and also our daily emails where you'll get the show notes.
They'll be out on Monday.
Every week.
Every week.
Yeah, and you get Mike's
hilarious banter for the other 4 days of the week.
Yeah.
Monday to Friday, that is. Obviously, I know that there's 7 days in a week. I'm not that dumb. Yeah.
Nice. Guys, thanks for listening. Share with anyone you think would be...
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for all the support, guys. And see you next week.
Bye.